Perfect. All right.
All right, here you go.
Yeah.
All right. I was in high school, and there were a lot of friends of mine that were talking in the hallways, and they were just talking about this whole thing called Kaleo. And I remember as a high school, I was like, what is this whole Kaleo thing? And I came up to one of my friends and I said, can you explain what this Kaleo thing is? Because everyone's talking about it, and for me in high school, I didn't want to miss out on anything. And then my friend decided to kind of share a little bit about what it was. It was about a youth group. It was a Christian group, but it was cool. And I was like, but I thought you weren't Christian. He was like, I'm not, but it's really cool hanging out there. And what happened was that I went to it mainly because, one, there was a girl that I liked, and two, there was pizza. I remember walking in, my mom was kind of nervous to drop me off. She did, walked in, and I got to meet a lot of different people that were leaders, and they just embraced me right from the start. It felt like they already knew who I was. And so I walked in and then just saw a lot of teens that were my age, and I was kind of nervous to go in. I was a little shy. Saw a lot of my friends from high school there. And then afterwards, we did this whole thing called Kaleo, where we go upstairs and there was like worship, a general session, a message, small groups. And I remember being weirded out from it because I grew up Catholic. And growing up Catholic, that means you go to church only Easter and on Christmas. And so seeing church happening on a November night was kind of weird because first of all, there were teens there. And second of all, it was young people that were leading it, probably people in their 20s or early 30s. People that looked like me. And so I remember that night, this guy called Marcos Gomez was the youth pastor, and so he was preaching this really, really deep word, and I was just moved like from the inside out and was just bawling. And I remember wearing my Catholic beads because I felt that I needed to do that in order for me to go into church. And so I went up there. He asked, like, if does anyone want to accept Christ into their heart? I went up there. I got on my knees, and I just remember praying and holding on to my rosary. Praying to God and asking Him to forgive me and to cleanse me from my sin. And I went up there and accepted God for the first time November 4th, 2011. And right after that was just literally a spiral of a new beginning of a life. It was like that night, November 4th, my past life was over, and I was walking into this completely new life with new friends and new community and like different grades, and it was just an amazing like time frame. That night, just something happened, like in an instant, and everything just switched. What happened afterwards was we went on this mission trip in August of 2012, and I went to San Francisco. And what we did, we started like feeding homeless people. We started praying over them. We learned a lot about leadership, and specifically what stood out to me in that mission trip was there was this woman called Lindsay. We were doing this prayer time, and Lindsay said that she had a word for me, and so she sat me down and started praying again, and that was kind of weird. But what happened was she put her hand back up and said, I have a word for you, and that word was this: I need you to read the book of Exodus, and I want you to really get familiar with who Moses was. And so I remember that story hit me because God in that moment was telling me, Byron, I see a Moses in you. I want you to go to your school, and I want you to free my people from sin. And I was like, but you could choose anyone. Like, why do you gotta choose me? Why? I stutter, like I'm nervous, like I ain't even that cool in school. Like, how am I gonna gather so many people in my high school and tell them about you, God? And so next thing you know, I'm at the after school program office, and I'm filling out the papers for this club that I called Adonai, which was Hebrew for God. And so what happened was that Adonai started on October 31st of 2012, with literally the whole class packed. But I remember before I got into this club thing, I went up to the whole high school and I had to give an announcement. And instead of giving an announcement, what happened was I ended up just preaching the gospel to them. I got in trouble for that, almost kicked out, but there was grace in that. And can I just tell you that for those 2 years, God had been using me so profoundly through the teen center and had been blessing me deeply. And so I've hit senior year, I graduated, I did it for a second year, I finished, the Adonai Club is done, a movement is created in the whole high school, kids are coming to the teen center from my school. I mean, God was moving through me because someone at the teen center had told me that they saw Moses in me. And so Kaleo, what it stands for, is chosen. chosen ones. And so I really felt that when I walked into a teen center, I felt like I was really someone that was chosen by God to do His work. And it didn't just stop in high school. Right after high school, as I was transitioning into college, like my pastor told me, like, I want you to serve at the teen center. So I did. And I've been serving for the past 5 years with their middle school ministry, discipling young kids and seeing them transition from middle school into high school. And it is honestly just a privilege to be able to share my story to these young people, letting them know that I was in your position once. And now this is where God has taken me. And can I just say, this is just the beginning, because God is transforming my life and my family and this whole community, ultimately by a promise that He had for my life, is that I'm going to use you because you are chosen. My name is Byron Apen, and this is my Teen Center story.